shocked. My husband is done with our relationship just because of a stupid joke. Have you ever been in a situation where a harmless joke within your friend group spiraled out of control? Well, that's what happened to me, and now my husband doesn't want to see me anymore. It all started with a silly prank that we thought would bring some laughter and fun. But as the joke escalated, it crossed a line that we never intended to cross. Some things are better left as they are because you actually don't know the outcome of them. It's so sad that I chose to do a childish and careless act just to make my husband jealous. You know the phrase that says, "Let bygones be bygones"? I should have used it. My husband, who was not part of the prank, felt deeply hurt and betrayed by my involvement. Despite my apologies and attempts to make things right, he refuses to even talk to me. It's a painful reminder of how a thoughtless action can have serious consequences on our relationships. I never imagined that a simple joke could lead to such a rift between us. Now, I'm left grappling with the aftermath and trying to repair the damage that has been done. I had never thought that one day I would find myself being one of my alpha husband's brutal revenge. You know, when you are too carefree, you end up doing things that would ruin your life and the second party's life. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just having fun, but I guess the fun had me instead. A very small mistake took me back to the hellhole I thought I had left. I regret the day I made that mistake. I thought my husband was not going to find out. We were playing a game, you know. Just having fun with a couple of friends at a party, not knowing that what I had thought was a game was actually cheating. The worst part was the fact that I had to realize it the hard way. I was fooled by my friends and did things that I had thought were harmless and fun only for it to ruin my life. I know someone who once had the same experience or had gone through the same situation that I was facing. How did you pick up the broken pieces and fix things regarding this situation? I know that my husband is a very sensitive person and he doesn't like stupid jokes, but still I went ahead with it. I really thought we were all just having fun only for him to take the joke personally and react in a cruel way. I really regret even starting with the prank game because now it has put me in a very tough situation and it took away the love of my life. Till today, I still don't know how to make John understand that it wasn't my intention to hurt his feelings and try to fix things between us. So I was married to John Johnson, male 33. I, female 33. First met him at the Cheesecake Factory in Dubai. I had gone there because I was craving for some cheesecake. The Cheesecake Factory is my favorite spot, but that day I don't know what had happened to the bakers because I got a very unpleasant cheesecake and it was a bummer for me. So I asked to speak to the manager because the cake tasted like it was made 5 days ago. As I was busy arguing with the employee, John came and offered to help me. I told John my complaint and he kindly took my complaint seriously and told the employees to fix the issue. I don't know if I would say that it was my lucky day at that time, but everything was just going smoothly because they even gave me a free cheesecake. John asked for my number so that he would make it up to me for the inconvenience caused. I told him that he didn't have it, but the guy assisted, so I gave him my number. 3 days later, he gave me a call and asked for us to meet at some restaurant in Barsha Heights. I wasn't sure if I should agree or reject the request, but I ended up agreeing anyway. So we met and we actually clicked, you know. Our souls clicked and we talked like we were getting to know each other. He then said that he is actually the owner of the Cheesecake Factory. I really liked the way he was humble and handled my matter as a priority when I had an issue with the employee and a cheesecake. We started getting along, communicating more via social media, especially on WhatsApp. He was a very good advisor. He was very smart, charming, and all that. I really liked the guy the first time we had spent time together. Was it too early for me to catch feelings for the guy? I mean, is there a time frame that was put to fall for a person? I didn't know how I would confess my feelings for the guy, so I decided to just go with the friendship flow, even though it wasn't really easy having to always chat with this person, and sometimes going out with him while knowing that you have deep love feelings for the man. Our friendship got stronger each day as much as I had a huge crush on him, but I had closed my crush to a small cage. At least we were friends and we were spending more time together. I was not used to Dubai, so he would take me to different places to visit, different ice cream shops. There was this weekend when he came to my aunt's house and asked me to accompany him somewhere. I didn't ask much, so I went with him, only to find out that we were going to Jumeirah Beach Residence, which was 35 minutes drive away from Barsha Heights. We were friends for like 6 months until I couldn't hold myself any longer. So I confessed my feelings to John, and to my surprise, he was actually surprised by the bomb that I had just dropped. I won't lie and say I wasn't nervous when I was confessing my undying love to John because I'm scared. We went quiet for a few moments then, when my mind and heart had given up on thinking that maybe he would accept my proposal. But little did I know that the guy was actually digesting what I had told him. So he actually kissed and I just froze, like I couldn't believe it. So that's when our relationship started. I was not regretting ever confessing my love for John. I mean, he was a very good partner to me. I couldn't ask for any other partner except for him. Yes, we had our fair share of ups and downs, but we had managed to break through everything. John was a God-fearing man and I wasn't, but we respected each other's beliefs and religions. We supported each other, and we decided that we wanted to actually grow old together through thick and thin, even through darkness and light. I loved John with every being in me, and I still love him even now, which is surprising after the damage that he had caused in my life. After a year of getting to know each other, he decided that he wanted to grow old with me. So he proposed in front of our families and friends. I was just the happiest woman alive, and everything was just going smoothly. John did everything for me. We got married 3 months after he had proposed. He made me an honest woman. Even though our marriage didn't last for long, memories of my relationship with John will always remain constant. We had our share of bad and good times. We really loved each other. That's what I know for sure. The following year, he proposed to me, and obviously I said yes. I mean, I saw the love of my life in him. Even though he was a bit insecure, maybe not a bit, but I loved him so much. I didn't see myself with anyone else other than him. He was my ride or die, my joy and happiness. I fell hard for him every day, not knowing that my small, stupid mistakes would cost me everything, including my love. Was it being naive or being forward? We got married after 6 months. Well, we didn't want to rush things, so we took our own sweet time to plan for our perfect wedding. I had moved out of my aunt's house after he proposed. We were living happily ever after. You know when you feel that she is the one, and you don't want anything to get in between you, which was how I felt. He was everything and more, not knowing that he would become my downfall someday. A year later, I fell pregnant. Our lives were great. I was so happy that I was going to be a mom. Not just being a mom, but the fact that I was going to have a child with the person I loved so much. 9 months later, I gave birth to a very adorable baby girl. She looked so much like my husband, and I loved her so much. She was and still is the best gift God has given me. A year later, I had asked my aunt to come over to my marital home with her husband because I had planned a surprise retirement and welcome back party for him since he was no longer going to be working overseas but coming back home. I wanted to appreciate him while he was still alive. That man had done so much for me. He was the best uncle-father I had ever had. Both Uncle John and my aunt deserved to get their roses while still alive. During that year, John had started acting really strange. He was no longer spending time with me, but he would take our daughter only and saying it was a daughter and daddy bonding session. That was actually a very lame excuse because even at home things were no longer fun. It was like we were forcing things even though our conversations were no longer fun and full of happiness. I had thought he was cheating because one day I had confronted him about his sudden behavior, and he looked at me like I had grown horns or I was crazy. So I decided to check his gadgets. Maybe he was using them, but I found nothing. I knew and felt that he was hiding something from me, but I couldn't get myself to think that whatever he was hiding was actually about me. One summer evening, I was preparing for my uncle's retirement/welcome home party. I had told John that I would be hosting a party for my uncle, so I needed him to be there to help me. That day, he had promised me that he would be home early, but he didn't keep his promise. I mean, why was I surprised? Because he had been absent for a few days. He would go to work very early in the morning and come back late when our daughter would have even gone to sleep. When I asked him about it, he would say he was caught up at work. I couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that told me that something was off. I kept wondering why John was so distant and absent lately. Yes, I found out that he was not cheating, but there was something that had made him too busy for his wife, because even our intimate moments were no longer the same. It was like he was doing it to satisfy himself more than the both of us. I wanted to find out what his problem was, but I just didn't know where to start. I had thought I knew John, but his behavior showed me that I didn't know him at all. So as the guests were arriving for my uncle's party, my uncle and his wife came, but I noticed that my uncle was a bit off as he tried pretending to be happy. I asked him on the side to speak with him, so I asked him what was going on. I had thought he was sick or something, but that was not the case. He had recently opened his coffee shop with the money he had gotten when it was his last day overseas. About a month later, John came back from work and gave me an invitation to his friend's wedding, so he wanted me to be his +1. I had known their friends and their partners for a while, but we were not close at that time because I was still a newbie in John's life. I accepted the invitation, and I knew that I had to find a stunning dress to match with my husband. The big day came, and I looked really fabulous in my dress. I was introduced to some of the groups that I haven't met, and I don't want to lie, they have a vibe with great energy. Time went on, and John decided to celebrate his birthday by hosting his friends for a birthday lunch braai. I didn't have a problem with that. I knew that it would give me a chance to get to know his other friends and their partners, so I was looking forward to it. John had been a sweetheart at that time, and he was less going to meetings with his business associates in some hotel. As much I had wanted to spend time with John on his birthday, but the braai idea was not a bad one. His birthday came, the friends came, and we were having so much fun. Conversations were flowing. We stayed together until very late, but we were enjoying everyone's company. The girls came with the idea of pranking our partners or playing the dare game, whereby you will have to share your deepest secret or tell us what is happening in your life and how intimate your moments are with your partner. I wasn't sure about those ideas, but they sounded fun, so I agreed to participate also, not knowing that it would actually put me in hot waters even though we didn't play it during John's birthday braai. 2 weeks later, a married couple who are John's friends invited us to their 10th year anniversary. I was so happy for them, you know. I had wished that I would also get to 10 years of marriage with John, but I didn't know that it would actually end on a 3rd year of marriage. We honored the invite and made sure to look the part and match the theme. Frank, male 36, and Christina, female 34, the married couple, were what we call a match made in heaven. Their love was so precious and pure. I just loved how they loved each other and did everything together. It all began innocently enough, as these things often do. Our friend group had always been known for our playful banter and lighthearted pranks. But little did I know that one careless joke would unravel everything I held dear. It was a typical Friday evening, and we were gathered at our usual spot, Frank's backyard, sipping beers and swapping stories. As the laughter flowed freely, someone brought up the topic of superstitions. That's when it happened, the catalyst for the chaos that followed. In a moment of sheer spontaneity, I blurted out a ridiculous idea. Wouldn't it be hilarious if we staged a fake breakup between me and John just to mess with everyone? I chuckled, thinking it would be nothing more than a fleeting moment of amusement. But the idea caught fire among our group. Before I knew it, we were all huddled together, brainstorming ways to make the fake breakup seem authentic. We planned every detail meticulously, from dramatic social media posts to tearful phone calls to friends. After the whole thing, Christina reminded us of the games that we had planned to play when we were at my house during John's braai. The first dare came to me, and I was dared to tell John a serious joke stating where he is lacking. I knew that that was a tough one, but I had to play it, you know. In my mind, I was just telling myself that it's just a game and nothing was going to happen, so I should participate. I blurted out that I was no longer enjoying our intimate moments because he is always tired and sometimes busy, so I was thinking of seeking intimacy outside our marriage. The following week, we put our plan into action. I pretended to be distraught, posting cryptic messages on social media about heartbreak and betrayal. John played along, offering comfort to our concerned friends and family members because they didn't know about the game. The game was full of fun, but little did I know that playing it was like playing with my marriage because it didn't end very well, and I regret ever accepting the challenge. At first, it was all in good fun. Our friends fell for the ruse hook, line, and sinker, offering sympathy and support. But as the days passed, I began to realize the gravity of what we had done. John grew distant, his once warm and affectionate demeanor replaced by a cold detachment. He avoided me, barely speaking more than a few words at a time. I tried to brush it off as part of the act, but deep down, I knew something had changed between us. Finally, one evening, John sat me down for a serious conversation. His eyes were filled with hurt and disappointment as he confessed that he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. He couldn't understand how I could joke about something as sacred as our relationship. I didn't understand why he was so worked up because the game instructions were clear. It was just a game, meaning we were just joking, but he took it to heart. We had a heated argument about what I had said at Christina's house. It even affected our daughter. You know that kids sense tension, so my daughter also sensed the tension, and it wasn't nice. John was really at me. Even if I tried to apologize, he wouldn't care about what I was saying. He only cared about his daughter, and that was hurting deeply. I even decided to be a stay-home mom just because I was respecting him, since he wanted me to be a housewife. But we had spoken about that and came to an agreement that I would do only remote jobs. And he decided to do such an evil act on me. What did I do wrong to him? The way I was shuddered and disappointed led to not being a fully present mother to our daughter. John was like my housemate because we were no longer sleeping in one bedroom and we were like strangers. Days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months. So one of those days, John came back very early from work and he didn't look too well. I tried asking him what was going on, but he didn't tell me. Instead, he looked at me like I was the most disgusting thing he had ever laid his eyes on. I got really confused because I had thought that we had forgiven each other for the game that happened at Christina's house, not knowing that the bastard actually found out that I had kissed a guy because of a game. So I asked him again, getting worried because he was not even happy to see our daughter, so I was wondering what may be the problem. Instead of answering, he just threw his phone at me. Then he started shouting, which is what I did despite him. He shouts like he is reprimanding a child, and that usually takes us to an argument. I looked at the phone that he had thrown at me, and I got the shock of my life. I couldn't even argue with him or deny because the picture in the video was right before my eyes. I didn't know what to say, nor do you know. I tried apologizing to him, but he wasn't having it. He wanted me gone. He told me right in my face that he doesn't want to see me anymore, saying that I had made him a fool for far too long. I spent the whole week in the hospital because of the state that my mind was in. I'd been getting sick every now and then, only to find out that I had lost my unborn child that I didn't even know about. My mind and heart was shuttered. A day before I got discharged from the hospital, my husband's lawyer came to see him. He left another envelope that I didn't even bother opening, but I took it home with me the next day. So when I had settled well at home, I remembered the envelope and opened it. The things the envelope contained left me in awe. My heart stopped for a moment. In the envelope, there were pictures of me and my male friend kissing each other. It looked like we were dating. I couldn't believe how my husband had got the pictures. I didn't understand why he would send his lawyer to deliver the pictures to me, and I saw nothing wrong in what I did, in my world or mine. Kissing was not and should not be considered as cheating. I mean, no feelings were attached. It was fun, nothing else. So after the pictures were delivered, the lawyer called me again, saying the divorce process had to come to a final decision and requested to see me along with my husband on a certain date. I honored his request and went to meet up with him and my husband. The only thing that made me agree to the meeting was because I had a lot of questions to ask my husband. One fateful day, the day of the meeting came and my husband was really divorcing me, and his reasons for the divorce were that he had lost trust in me, and I had not been faithful to our marriage. The fact that I had found solace in another man's arms and left him in our house to take care of our daughter. I thought he understood that I was going through grief, and I was not myself. I tried defending myself in the picture case, and the lawyer told me exchanging saliva or kissing another person outside my marriage is considered cheating, even if I had thought it was an innocent friendship kiss. But the fact that I had spent time and kissed another person in the name of friendship is cheating. I begged him to forgive me. I cried and acted like a lunatic, but he was just not bugging. I didn't know that and never thought of it as cheating because me and the guy were only friends. I didn't take him as another thing and never thought of him that way. I loved my husband so much, but I guess the only thing I never did was respect my wedding vows and my husband. I didn't know, okay? One moment I was happy, the next I was devastated by an argument that we had about the joke and found comfort in alcohol. That alcohol led me to do something that I had thought I was doing just for fun. I guess nothing stays in the dark. I felt so ashamed. Doing things in the name of fun sometimes leads us to our downfall. So I ended up signing the papers, meaning I was actually letting go of my husband, our love, our vows, and our family. I asked the lawyer what I was benefiting from the divorce, and he told me that I would be getting nothing rather than the house I was living in. So I asked my husband to unfreeze my accounts, and he told me that my accounts were fine. It was just that they didn't have any money. I knew he was crazy, but I had never thought it was to that extent. How could he do something so evil to the mother of his child? As I had thought that was all. He then dropped a very large and a killer bombshell to me, saying that he was taking full custody of our daughter, and that I was not fit enough to be a mother, so he was taking full responsibility to our daughter. A few weeks later, he filed for full custody of our daughter, stating that I was not fit to be a mother. On top of that, he blocked all my bank cards. I didn't know about that until I tried swapping the card in the petrol station, so I called my advisor, and I was actually told that my cards were blocked. When I got home, I found out that he had actually taken my clothes and threw them outside. The doors were locked and changed, meaning I no longer had access to the house anymore. Mind you, that time I didn't have gas in my car, so I didn't know how I was going to get home from Dammock Hill. My ex-husband was evil and psychopathic. The signs were there, but I didn't pay any attention to them. I was so much in love and thought I had found my soulmate, but I found my worst nightmare and downfall. I couldn't believe that he did all that just because of a lousy kiss. It wasn't like I was dating the guy, but he destroyed my life. All in the name of revenge for a kiss. A few months later, I had to try and fix my life bit by bit. John did a number on me, so it wasn't easy having to start afresh. Fortunately, I found a job as a waitress in one of the restaurants nearby. It was not easy, but I had to try and pick up life and better myself. I had no one but myself, so it was time to focus on me and do me. And the good thing was that John's parents had allowed me to see my daughter and spend time with her. I prayed every day for karma to visit John one day. Fortunately, it did. All his operations came out and he was arrested. I vowed to myself to never fall in love again or have a crush on someone. I have learnt my lesson. Do you think I handled the whole situation better, or I was a coward and naive to allow John to destroy my life like that? Please advise me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the extent of the damage our stupid joke had caused. I begged for forgiveness, but John's heart was broken, and he couldn't bring himself to trust me again. Our friend group's harmless prank had cost me the love of my life. As I sit alone now, surrounded by the echoes of laughter that once filled our home, I can't help but wonder, was the joke really worth it? You know when a person says they were drowning in deep, muddy waters? I was that person. I was drowning in muddy water and I couldn't swim. I resorted to finding closure in alcohol. I became what my mother was when she was divorced by my father. At that time, I understood why my mother was an alcoholic. My life was down and out. I had lost the only person who showered me with love and care and gave me a very beautiful daughter. Now I had lost that daughter, plus something that was so dear in my heart, my company. I was really depressed and wished to just go far away where there were no troubles and sorrows. 6 months later, my mother told me to stop having a pity party because it will not bring back the things that I had lost, including my daughter, but instead it would take me straight to the morgue, and when that happens, I would not be able to fight nor see my daughter ever again. Those words made me think again about life, so I took the money that I had saved from my company and the one I had got when I got divorced and used it to fix myself. I went to the rehabilitation center for 6 months while attending AA meetings when I was inside. By the time I came out, I was a whole new person. I had discovered what my worth was and what I wanted. I started by asking for at least a joint custody of my daughter, which I got by the grace of God. I went through a very tough depression phase for almost a year, and I had thought I was going to lose my life in the process. Everything was too much for me to handle. But there was one thing I was proud of that I had done, and that was saving myself from the greedy and selfish bastard. I was glad that my mother came through for me when John threw out my clothes. My mother found me a therapist that did house calls, and I was grateful for that because I didn't want to face the world, you know. I was somehow scared that John would see me or temper with my car tires. This time it showed that he was just obsessed with destroying my life. I couldn't leave my daughter alone. The therapy sessions went on for months because sometimes I would not want to open up, but I eventually got help and decided to stand up for myself. John was sentenced to 25 years in prison for scamming a businessman in Chicago, and other charges came up when the police continued with the investigation. I was so relieved that he was finally away from me and my family, and I had vowed to never ever think I know better. I vowed to listen to my mother whenever she gives me warnings. After John got sentenced, I became free again. I became myself, and decided to take my acting career seriously, while I continued being a waitress on the side. After that, I never went back to my matrimonial house. I continued staying with my mother, and our lives were in so much peace and happiness. I realized that I didn't know what peace and happiness was when I was with John because I was blinded by the love I had for him. But now I can proudly say I am free and at peace. I'm the person who made rules for myself and never allowed anyone or anything to change that. I lived my life for me without looking for validation from others. But when I fell in love with John, all of that changed. I lost myself. I became his puppet, his submissive wife. I followed his rules and did everything the way he wanted to, all because of love and being committed to the relationship, even though it was very much toxic. But I stayed and held on to the hot steel even when it had started to burn my skin. It's not easy being in a relationship whereby you have to compromise yourself just because you want to make your partner happy. It has never worked like that. I know that some would be surprised if I were to say that I still love my ex-husband and I miss him so much every day. My heart wanted me to fight for our relationship and find a common solution to the problem. But why try to help a person who doesn't need help? It was like he was somehow possessed by a controlling demon. So when it was in active mode of controlling him, he would want to be in control also. John was like a person who had multiple personality disorder, even though I can't and couldn't confirm it. But the way he was doing things, his manipulative and controlling tendencies seemed like he was pushed by something or someone to do it, to satisfy it. One thing I regret about myself was that I didn't or never gave myself enough time to learn more about John. I mean, it didn't take us too long to get married, from being friends to being boyfriend and girlfriend to being husband and wife. All of those stages happened within 1 year, if I am not mistaken. Everything happened too fast, and I was blindly in love to notice anything on our dating stage. Please tell me if the decisions I had taken and made were good moves. I mean, half of my heart still loves the guy, but the other hates him with passion. My daughter sometimes wants to visit him in jail, but I do not allow them because I do not want anything to do with John. What should I do? Please tip me here because I am lost and I don't know what to do. I want to hear from you. Redditors, what should I have done? Yes, I had hopes that he would eventually change and become the man I had fallen in love with. I thought he would eventually realize that he was the one with the problem and try to change it with me on his side, supporting him as his wife. I had spoken with him a lot about his behavior and begged him to at least talk to a therapist so he would be able to take out whatever that he had and get help. Instead, he would just brush everything off and dismiss my opinion like it was nothing. Though according to my own knowledge and perspective, I don't know what I was doing. I would say it was being ungrateful and not being able to be patient with my husband. I wish things were done differently. Yes, it's too late. But I regret every stupid decision that I had made. Now I have lost everything, and there is really no one to blame but myself. I don't know how I can fix all of this and get forgiveness for myself. I know everything showed that I did everything willingly, even though I couldn't remember the following, but only God knows the truth. I didn't know that just one joke would actually land me where I am now. Am I being a fool or naive if I say I miss John so much and our daughter misses him too? I'd been thinking of visiting him in prison, but I don't know what I would say to him when I get there. Yes, I want him to be punished for being fake and scamming me along with other people that he had scammed. But my heart still longs for him. I can't even talk to my mother about this because I know that she will freak out when she hears about my heart desire. So please help me find a way to approach both families about this issue. What do you say I should do? Please help me.
Hi, Reddit. I have always been a big fan of this social media, and so I see it sufficient to post about my situation here, to solicit and get some advice from you guys, and to also share my story. I feel like some people could learn a lot from it, especially those currently cheating or planning to cheat on their partner. I am currently in a very tight spot and need help. My name is Mia, and I am a 30-year-old woman. I've been married to my husband, Ethan, who is a 32-year-old man, for 6 years. We dated for 2 years before getting married. We have 2 kids, Lisa, who is an 8-year-old girl, and Nicholas, who is a 6-year-old boy. We live in South Carolina in the United States. It is a small town, but we are happy with it. My husband grew up here, and his family is quite wealthy and connected here. Ethan and I first met in an escape room LOL. We instantly connected and took to each other like fish to water. There was just a beautiful spark between us. A bunch of years went by since our first date, and you know what? The spark between us is still kicking. I'm crazy about my husband. He gets me, nails the whole dad and husband thing, and goes all out for our kids. Our bedroom action? No complaints there. It's active and awesome. No, we make it a point to squeeze in date nights every weekend we're not drowning in responsibilities. Overall, our married life is like living in a dream. But let's be real, we're far from perfect. He's got stuff I wish he'd tweak, and I've got my own list of changes for me. It's those quirks, though, that make us a perfect mess together. But here's the kicker. There was this small hiccup. I messed up, started cheating. Yeah, it's like this dark cloud hanging over our otherwise kick-ass marriage. I got caught up in something messy at work, and honestly, I can't pinpoint when or how it all went down. All I know is I ended up having a thing with a coworker. It's like this secret I stumbled into without a clear start. It's not like there was some big plan, it just kind of happened. Now I'm stuck dealing with the fallout from it. The start of this whole mess traces back to about 6 months ago when my affair partner and I both joined the company and began our training simultaneously. Even in those early days, something felt off. I noticed he was unusually friendly, especially towards me. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just a sociable person. The thing is, the more I tried to ignore it, the more he seemed to crank up the friendliness. It became this weird thing of him being extra nice, and me trying my best to downplay it. It was like this unspoken tension building up, creating a strange feeling that I couldn't shake off no matter how hard I tried. Jason, my coworker, was this handsome and sociable guy that everyone at work seemed to adore. He had this reputation as the fun guy, always bringing positive vibes to the office. What puzzled me, though, was his extra effort to be nice to me. It felt like he went out of his way, and I couldn't quite figure out why. Then, after about a month or two, Jason applied to transfer to my department. Now, that really threw me for a loop. I couldn't wrap my head around why he'd want to switch, especially considering we didn't have any special projects or collaborations. Things got even stranger when we were both at a coworker's wedding. Jason, in his usual outgoing manner, tried to dance with me. I had to put my foot down and refused, explaining that it just didn't feel right or proper given our work relationship. Jason's relentless niceness was like a never-ending loop. Whenever I told him to ease up, he'd apologize. But the very next day, he was right back at it, trying to get close to me. The weird part? I could have easily taken it up with HR, but if I'm being honest, there was a part of me that enjoyed the attention. He had this knack for noticing every little thing about me and showering compliments, especially when I changed up my look. It was a daily routine for him, complimenting me on stuff my own husband wouldn't notice. It felt like I finally had someone acknowledging my existence. To be completely real, I started dressing up at work just to get those compliments from Jason. It became this strange cycle where his attention filled a void, even though I knew deep down it wasn't right. However, the day I finally went all the way with Jason happened during a coworker's birthday party. The workplace had this tight-knit vibe, and we all tended to be quite friendly. Whenever there was a celebration, like this coworker's birthday party, we'd all get invites. The atmosphere was laid back and everyone was having a good time. It was one of those moments where work boundaries blurred and we could just relax. Jason, true to form, was there, and the social setting made it easier for his charm to work its magic. The usual friendly banter took a turn, and before I knew it, I was falling into Jason's trap. At the birthday party, Jason stuck to his routine, giving me a compliment on my appearance that genuinely brought a smile to my face. As the night progressed, the drinks flowed freely, and before I realized it, I was a bit more than tipsy. The details of when things took a turn with Jason are hazy, but what I do remember is that, in the moment, I found myself enjoying it. The aftermath hit me hard the next day, though. I had cheated on my husband. Regret flooded in, and I made a solemn vow to steer clear of Jason. Frustration and anger boiled within me, leading to a heated confrontation where I cursed him out and explicitly told him to stay away. In an attempt to cut ties, I even went ahead and blocked him, attempting to put an end to the situation that had gone out of control. The enjoyment I experienced during that moment with Jason was something I couldn't admit, even to myself. The days that followed were heavy with guilt. I reached a point where I couldn't face the idea of going to work and encountering Jason. In my confusion, I called in sick, using it as an excuse to seeing Jason, as I was still so ashamed and angry. My husband, unsuspecting, had asked about the birthday party. I gave him the edited version, claiming it went on as usual and that I'd gotten a little tipsy. I conveniently left out the part where I got drunk, spent the night there, and sent him a text message explaining that I'd stay over at a friend's place to sober up. When he offered to pick me up, I declined, assuring him everything was fine. In reality, I spent the night with Jason. There was no way my husband would recover from that. Returning to work after those tumultuous days away was a challenge. I attempted to keep my distance from Jason, but that resolve only lasted for a brief period. Within a few days, he was back to being overly friendly, disrupting my efforts to maintain a professional distance. He'd bring me coffee, grab lunch for me during his break, and flash random smiles my way. Attempting to address the situation, Jason assured me it wasn't my fault, but his. He apologized and urged me not to worry, emphasizing that what my husband didn't know wouldn't harm him. His attempts to comfort me was surprising, but what I desperately need. He even suggested I unblock him so we could talk after work. Now call me stupid or silly and you would not be wrong. I messed up big time. Jason kept pushing, and against my better judgment, I unblocked him. The guy's texts were annoying yet weirdly comforting. He'd send good morning and good night texts, blab about his day, and keep saying it wasn't my fault. He even suggested we could keep our thing going without my husband knowing. And stupidly, I started buying into Jason's words. His texts, persistent as they were, messed with my head. On one hand, I was annoyed by his constant messages, but on the other, I found myself questioning my own stance. After all, what my husband didn't know would not hurt him. Jason didn't waste time breaking through my defenses. Before I knew it, we were in the middle of a secret affair. It was pretty easy to keep it hush-hush since we worked together. We'd sneak off to the restroom during work hours for our secret meetups. I get it. It sounds dumb now, but in the excitement of it all, I was oblivious to how messed up the whole thing was. To throw my husband off, I cooked up a story about wanting to boost my career, saying I'd be putting in more hours at work. Despite my husband being worried about me stressing out, considering he earned more and could handle our bills, I convinced him not to stress. His higher earnings also meant he had more time for the kids, which became handy. While he played the responsible parent, I used the excuse of working extra hours to chill at Jason's apartment after work. We'd either wait for everyone to clear out before our secret bathroom meetings or just head over to Jason's place. Looking back, it's clear I was tangled up in a mess of lies and messed up priorities. Jason had this knack for making me feel like I was the center of the universe, like I was the only one who truly mattered. I found myself smiling more and getting all pumped up to go to work. Sick days off work became a rarity. My husband noticed my newfound enthusiasm for work and said he was glad I was happy. But he also pointed out the obvious. I was neglecting the kids. He was right, but back then I was oblivious to it all. I started tuning out from parenting responsibilities, leaving all the childcare to my husband. Even when I was home, I'd hole up in our study, pretending to be engrossed in work when, in reality, I was deep into texting Jason. The kids started to voice their complaints, wanting more time with me. I'd brush it off, explaining that mommy had to work. This continued for weeks, and my coworkers began noticing the change. Jason and I were suddenly closer, and I wasn't giving him the cold shoulder anymore. I even went to the extent of leaving my car at home sometimes, so Jason could give me a ride back to his apartment. Looking back, I realize how dumb that was. Anyone could have seen me sitting in Jason's car, lol, and someone did see me, lol. But at the time, I thought it was some romantic move. The whole situation seriously had me wrapped up in a cloud of oblivious choices and misguided notions of romance. There were numerous signs, almost like the universe itself was trying to send me warnings to put the brakes on this whole affair. Looking back, it's clear that these cautionary signals were scattered throughout my journey, yet I foolishly chose to turn a blind eye to them. The first hints appeared in the form of my own guilt, a nagging feeling that should have acted as a red flag. Then there were the moments of hesitation, those brief pauses before responding to Jason's messages when I could have reconsidered my actions. Even my kids' complaints and my husband's concerns served as glaring indicators that something was amiss. As if that wasn't enough, my coworkers started noticing the change in dynamics between Jason and me, and the risky behavior of leaving my car behind just to share a ride with him was a glaring signal. It's almost comical how the universe threw these warning signs my way, and yet, in the whirlwind of emotions, I remained oblivious to the impending storm. It's a realization that hindsight often brings. The universe had been dropping hints, trying to redirect my course. In my stubbornness, or perhaps sheer ignorance, I chose to ignore these signals just because I loved the thrill of my affair with Jason. One time, my husband's sister actually caught me riding shotgun in Jason's car in the middle of traffic. It's a miracle she never spilled the beans to my husband. Or maybe she just forgot, as she tends to do sometimes. Another possibility is that she thought she must have been mistaken since I managed to pull off a quick, inconspicuous duck when I spotted her. That moment could have blown the lid off the whole affair, but somehow, luck was on my side and the secret stayed safe. Everything seemed like a typical workday until it all hit the fan. Jason and I were our usual flirty selves at work, sneaking off to the restroom for a quick, intimate session. During lunch, he brought me food and we chatted like any other day. We planned to head to his place after work, so I messaged my husband, telling him I'd be working overtime for a few extra hours. He was cool with it, already home and ready to watch the kids. Perfect, right? Work wrapped up, and as I headed to the parking lot, Jason was waiting for me. A few coworkers stopped to chat, and one even asked if everything was okay between Jason and me. I spun this tale about how we'd become better friends after I realized it was wrong to give him the cold shoulder. She seemed skeptical but didn't press further, just nodding and letting the conversation wrap up. Now it's important to note that I knew Jason wasn't exactly Mr. Clean in the lifestyle department. He had a thing for drugs, but he was a functional addict. If you weren't super tight with him, you wouldn't guess it. Dude looked good, stayed fit, and had this glowing vibe that didn't scream drug addict. But here's the real kicker. Jason wasn't just into using. He also dabbled in dealing, and he kept a stash at his place. One time, he tried to get me on the weed train, but it wasn't my thing. Swore off it real quick and never gave it another shot, LOL. I finished chatting with the coworker and made my way to meet Jason in the parking lot. Feeling a bit hungry, we decided to swing by McDonald's for some takeout. After grabbing burgers and fries, we headed to Jason's apartment. Once there, we dug into our food, catching a movie as part of our usual routine. Then we started getting intimate. Things took a wild turn when, mid-intimacy, we were interrupted by a bang on the door. Turns out, it was the police. Panic set in, and I started scrambling to get dressed, but Jason urged me to calm down, assuring me they probably didn't even have a permit to search him. Maybe they just had a few questions, he said. We reluctantly opened the door, only to find ourselves immediately arrested. Shocked was an understatement. They flashed a warrant and proceeded to ransack Jason's apartment, uncovering not just weed, but also some serious hard stuff. Both of us ended up in cuffs. But here's the kicker. As they were dragging me away, they dropped the bomb that it wasn't just about the drugs. Oh no, they believed I was in cahoots with Jason, tagging me as a dealer too. And if that wasn't enough, they threw in adultery and infidelity. The shock hit me like a freight train. Infidelity? My mind raced. Did my husband report me? Did he somehow know about the affair? Living in South Carolina, where the laws against infidelity are no joke, added an extra layer of dread. Fines or even days in jail were on the table, and the last thing I wanted was to end up behind bars. In a desperate attempt, I tried explaining to the police officer and lying that I was clueless about Jason's illegal activities. However, my pleas fell on deaf ears as the officer insisted on waiting until we reached the police station to hear me out. So I begrudgingly stayed quiet during the journey. Once at the police station, they separated Jason and me, leading us into separate rooms for intense questioning. Overwhelmed with emotions, I broke down in tears and spilled the truth to the police officer. I admitted that I was married and had been cheating on my husband with Jason. I made it clear that Jason was fully aware of my marital status. However, when it came to the drug aspect, I decided to lie. I told the officer that I had no idea Jason was involved in drugs, that I never took any substances from him, and that he never disclosed his drug dealing activities to me. My tears flowed freely as I confessed. I insisted on having my lawyer present. Recognizing they couldn't detain me without pressing charges, the police informed me that I was free to go. However, they strongly recommended I get legal representation, emphasizing that their investigation would persist. They also said I would be called to testify against Jason in court. Of course, to save myself, I quickly agreed. As I was about to leave, one of the cops called me over and dropped a bomb. My husband had snitched on me, giving them Jason's address. They said they usually wouldn't spill the beans, but my husband insisted that they tell me. To rub salt in the wound, they hit me with the news that I was now no longer welcome at home because of my cheating ways. I couldn't hold back the tears, and I literally started crying again. The cops weren't exactly sympathetic to my tears, their expressions showing clear disdain for my infidelity. Despite their judgment, I resolved to go back and beg my husband for forgiveness. So I hopped into a taxi and headed home. But let's be real, what did I really expect? When I arrived, I found all my bags neatly stacked on the front porch. A cold and unwelcome reception, to say the least. Devastated, I knocked on the door, but there was no response. To say I was distraught would be an understatement. I stood there for hours, crying, but it became evident that either they were purposely ignoring me or they weren't home. Left with no other option, I had to gather my bags and find refuge in a hotel for the night. I couldn't even go back to Jason's apartment because he had already blocked me. They had released him, but it was clear he was under investigation and might end up in jail. I am currently in the hotel room, and I feel utterly lost. The weight of the situation has me in complete distress, and I've been crying for hours without a clear idea of what to do next. Attempting to reach out to Ethan, my husband, has been met with silence. He won't pick up my calls or respond to my texts. Even reaching out to my in-laws, Ethan's parents, has proven fruitless as they refuse to answer the phone. My family lives in another state, and the distance makes it challenging to seek solace with them immediately. I am hesitant to travel tomorrow because my priority is to repair my marriage with Ethan and also work. I can't just up and leave. What do you think I should do, Reddit? Please help. Update. Wow, okay, it's been a month since I made that post, and I never expected the post to blow up like this. I've gotten numerous DMs asking for an update, so I guess I owe you guys one, so here's everything that has gone down since. First of all, living in a hotel for a month, no matter how budget-friendly, turned out to be a financial burden. I've had to switch hotels twice in search of more affordable options. On top of this, the heartbreaking reality has set in. Ethan and I are heading for a divorce. After a few weeks of enduring his silence, I reached a breaking point and sent Ethan a heartfelt text, pleading for him to act like an adult and talk to me. Thankfully, he finally relented, breaking the ice and replying to me. We arranged a meeting in a neutral place, a restaurant. It was disheartening to see that he didn't bring the kids, but I understood his need for caution and lack of trust. The entire conversation was gut-wrenching. When he asked me why I had done it, I couldn't come up with a single excuse. The weight of his disappointment was so sad, he told me I had shattered his heart. That Ethan revealed that he was the one who called the cops on Jason. I admitted that I knew, as the police had informed me at the station. Ethan explained that he had instructed the cops to tell me because he had initially planned on cutting all ties with me. I couldn't help but wonder how he knew about Jason's drug involvement, but Ethan simply claimed he had sources. When I asked him about discovering my infidelity, he shared that he found out in various ways. He had seen my text messages with Jason and even had screenshots. Additionally, he claimed to have heard it from people in town, including some of my coworkers who had approached him. I was crushed. I couldn't stop the tears. All I could say on repeat was, "I'm so sorry. I love you. I never meant for this to happen." But he wasn't buying it anymore. The trust was gone. Ethan said he wanted a divorce for our mental well-being. I broke down even more because he made it clear he couldn't get past what I did. The lies I fed him only made things worse. He laid it all out, talking about how he handled everything at home, babysitting, taking care of the kids, while I lied about working late, actually spending time with Jason. The mess I created had wrecked my marriage. Ethan laid it into me. He had been the one carrying way more weight, earning more than me, taking on all the responsibilities, and he didn't even mind that. He reminded me of how absent I was from the kids, absorbed in my own world with Jason. Ethan confessed that he had known about it for a while, hoping I would change, but I never did. He admitted that he believed I wouldn't have stopped if he hadn't made the call to the police. It was like a reality check and a wake-up call. Ethan slammed the door on forgiveness and told me it was never happening. He told me divorce papers were coming. He wanted custody of the kids since he had proof of me being absent a lot in their lives. He asked where I was currently staying, and when I told him a hotel, he teased me about crashing in a hotel and questioned why I wasn't bunking with Jason, making me cry even more. He then told me he was taking the money in our joint account. I couldn't complain, it was majorly his money, but he promised to leave me a little to get by for a few weeks. Ethan said he'd shoot me a text when the divorce papers were ready. When I asked about the kids, he assured me we could meet up next weekend. Despite the fact that I had hurt him, he promised not to keep me from seeing them. But he made it clear that fixing things with the kids was on me, as they'd grown distant during my absence. It hurt, but I couldn't deny that Ethan was speaking the truth, and the weight of my own actions hit me hard. After our heart-wrenching conversation, Ethan left. He even footed the bill for our drinks at the restaurant and left the waitress a tip. I'm still waiting for those divorce papers. When they come, I won't put up a fight. I know I deserve every bit of it, and I'll sign them without a single complaint. It's the least I can do after everything that went down. As for Jason, let's just say he's become a ghost in my life. I haven't seen or talked to him in a while, and truth be told, I don't even care about his fate anymore. I'm still expecting a call from the cops, and when the time comes, I'll testify against him without a second thought. That's the whole scoop on what's been going down recently. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. Here's a nugget of wisdom for everyone out there. Steer clear of cheating on your partner. Seriously, it's not worth it. Take a lesson from my missteps, back to square one for me because, well, I made some dumb choices.